I'm Casey, and this is gonna be my July wrap-up. If you're new to I Don't Know What I'm Doing, I do book content here, and I'm also really terrible at this part of it, of like intros and outros. So we're just gonna go ahead and jump straight into my July wrap-up. I'm gonna do a quick rundown of all the books I read in the month of July, and then we're gonna move on to the superlatives. I gave no rating to Neuroqueer Heresies by Nick Walker. My 2-star for the month was Sundial by Katrina Ward. My 3 stars were After the Rain by Nindi Okorafor and David Brame, All About Love by Bell Hooks, Things We Lost in the Fire by Mariana Enriquez, and The Book of M by Payne Shepherd. My 4 stars for the month were Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse, Stone Blind by Natalie Haynes, Is It Hot in Here or Am I Suffering for All Eternity for the Sins I Committed on Earth by Zach Zimmerman, Skyward In by Leah Whitley, Hurricane Lizards and Plastic Squid by Thor Hansen, and A Children's Bible by Lydia Millett. My 5 stars for the month were Defect by Nino Cipri, and The 7 Moons of Mali Almeida by Shihan Karuna Tialaka. Moving on to superlatives, I'm going to move on to my worst book of the month, and surprisingly, this was The Book of M by Payne Shepherd. And the reason I think that this is surprising is primarily because this was not my lowest rated book of the month. But I had very strong feelings about it overall, and most of them just skewed negative. This is a post-apocalyptic book in a future in which a pandemic has wiped out most of the human population, and it starts with the shadows disappearing from people and progresses from there. I thought this was really interesting. I really loved the premise and the idea behind it. I was really pulled in pretty immediately. I enjoyed the writing for the most part, but just around the 50% mark, this book really just, for me, lost me somewhere. And part of it was I enjoyed the fast-paced plot in, like, not really plot, but like narrative and the need and the want in our main character at the very beginning. And somewhere in the middle, it just sort of, you know, it dissipated and it slowed down a significant portion. And I found that to be very disappointing. And overall, as the story went on, I thought it was lackluster, and I was really disappointed in it, especially because it had such a strong opening, and I really wanted this to go better for me. This was like a 4.5 star book for me for the first portion, and then the tail end of it just really lost me and really frustrated me, and I found it to be very disappointing. Moving on to my most disappointing of the month, and that was Sundial by Katrina Ward. This was my lowest rated book of the month. This author and I just don't really click. But one of the reasons why this didn't make it to my worst and instead made it to my most disappointing is there was something really compelling about this. Once I started it, I had a very hard time putting it down. I wanted to keep reading it, even though I found it really, really frustrating at times, and I didn't entirely trust the author with what was going on. This is the part where I need to tell you what this is about. This is a horror novel. This is following Rob and her family. She is going back home to Sundial to take her oldest daughter and to try to help her oldest daughter with some behavioral problems. And she's sort of escaping a bad home life, but it's also dual timelines where we're following Rob when she was very young with her twin sister living at Sundial. And for me, it was really compelling. I wanted to know more about Rob and her family. And it was, whenever we were in the past, I was far more compelled than I was in the present. And I read The Last House on Needless Street by this author a year or two ago at this point, and I didn't love it. I know a lot of people either love it or hate it. And I was sort of somewhere in the middle because it was compelling. It was very compelling. This author writes compelling horror novels and characters that I want to keep reading about. But somewhere in the execution, it gets lost in the sauce for me. And where The Last House on Needless Street really had some problematic tropes that it engaged with, this one didn't, although I really thought it was going to at some point. I really thought we were going to toe the line of some really problematic things, and I was wondering where it was going to go, but it didn't, and I'm very happy about that. But it still just kind of left me wanting more. My most meh for the month of July was All About Love by Bell Hooks. This is a nonfiction talking about love. Surprising. And the reason that this just ended up being pretty meh for me was it was just the mix of some of the hardest hitting, most what's the word? Profound insights on love and the human condition, mixed with some massive swings and misses for me. There were portions of this whenever the author talks about how love and abuse cannot coexist in the same system or in the same house. I was enraptured, and I wanted to know more about what was going on, but it was so heavily spiritual. And as a person who is not spiritual, that just did not resonate with me. And whenever that was sort of, professed as the main portion of what comprises love and what makes love, it left me very disappointed. And overall, it was so up and down. And I thought it was going to be more of a hit for me. Okay, on to my most surprising, and that has to go to Defect by Nino Cipri. This is a sequel. This is a science fiction fantasy following the Liederwald store, which is basically just IKEA. It is a prequel? No, it's not really a prequel. I don't have words. Is the sequel to Fina by this author. And this follows a character who was named frequently in the first novel as sort of a punching bag for the most part, of like, oh, well, if Derek had been here, none of this would have happened. And this time we get to follow Derek. And this was it was fun. It was enjoyable. And it's another really fast short novella, and I really loved it. And I thought it was better than the first one. And that's why it's the most surprising to me. I don't often think that sequels entirely reach the potential to not really overshadow, but to surpass their predecessor. And this is one that did. This was just so fun and so engaging, so short, so compelling, and just truly talked about the human spirit and, the various ways you could live your life and the various multitudes that you can contain. And it was really fun and really cute and really adorable. And I loved it. On to my favorite book for the month, and that has to go to The 7 Moons of Molly Almeida. If you watched my previous video talking about all my 5 stars for the month and my favorites, you saw me talk about this. There's also another video I filmed that I don't think is going up before this one where I talk about this. I loved this. This is a literary fantasy following Molly Almeida, who has just died in 1990 Colombo, and he was a photojournalist, and he can't remember his death, and he very quickly finds out that he has 7 moons or 7 days to sort of make his peace with everything before he is encouraged to move on, or before he is stuck on the earth forever. And then this is his journey in these 7 days. I love this. I love this. I fucking love this. This was beautiful. Excuse me. This was incredible. This was so fun, so enjoyable, so compelling. I cared so much about the characters. I thought it was so interesting. It really took the concepts of grief and loss into such depths, and I love the exploration of losing not just your life and what that means for you and it means for your loved ones, but also having to look back on your life and finding the points in your life where you lost who you could have been, and the exploration of that. It was fun. The mystery throughout of what truly happened to Molly and how he died was really compelling, and I found it was so sweet. It was funny at times. It's a little satirical, and truly it's just absolutely beautiful. It's really beautiful. This is one where I grabbed the audiobook for this, and it was so perfect and it was so incredible. Okay, that's it. That's my July wrap up. Do algorithm things if you want. If not, I will see you next Friday. I hope you're having a lovely day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.